everyone, welcome back to Rolling Solo. My name is Adam Smith, and we are continuing our adventure into Imperial Assault, Legends of the Alliance. In the last video, we did the setup, and really, in essence, the rules overview will be built out as we play through the app. So normally during my showcases, I do a solo setup, then a rules overview, but really this tutorial is going to be that rules overview, so we're doing it all one and the same, which is just absolutely perfect. So we're going to move on from where we left off, and that was beginning with the activations of our heroes. Now first we'll just jump back to the app to get a little bit more on what we need to do and how these activations actually play out. So let's jump back to the app here. And you can see actually that I've kind of tilted the app a little bit differently than before. I'm going to do my best to avoid the lights above me, but I find this is a little bit better probably for your guys' viewing. In the last video it was flat down on the ground, which was a little bit more of an angle. This seems to be a little bit better, but I do apologize. The reflection on iPads is absolutely out of this world, so it's a little tough to get around. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and we're going to hit continue, and we're going to move along here. So it says, during a figure's activation, the figure performs up to 2 actions, as we talked about in the last video. A figure can perform the same action more than once during its activation. So you could use both activations to move twice, for instance. It's a good example. Let's get moving, Kish says. We've got some combat training to do. Corporal Kish will activate first. Kish walks down the stairs and stops next to the gate leading out of the courtyard. Corporal Kish's first action will be the move action. For more detail on the movement, you can see the rules reference guide. So again, it'll talk more about how the movement works. When a figure makes a move action, that figure gains movement points equal to the figure's speed, as denoted on its hero sheet or deployment card. So in this case, deployment card because it's Corporal Kish. 4 in the case of a rebel trooper, and you can see that by just taking a quick reference right here on the speed. So Corporal Kish has 4 movement. Now, those movement points may only be used during the figure's current activation, and that's kind of pretty straightforward. So I just hit the continue button. It says right here, it's highlighting 3 areas for Corporal Kish. It says it costs 1 movement point for a figure to move to an adjacent space, orthogonal or diagonal. Colored lines like those highlighted indicate the presence of terrain. Black and red lines, both solid and dashed, block movement. So what this is really showing on the app is it's showing the areas of which are actually you can't move through. So in other words, you can't move across dashed lines, so we couldn't move this way. You can't move off the map into black space, and you can't move through a solid red line. So that's why the circles are kind of halfway into each individual location. That's why it's showing you that. So we're gonna go ahead and hit continue, move along. So it's showing you now how exactly Corporal Kish is using his movement to get to the door. So we're going to do the exact same thing. So he actually, if you take a look at the app again, it shows that he went 1 forward and then 2 diagonal. So we'll do the exact same thing, 1 forward, but then you'll notice Jan is actually sitting in this particular spot, but Corporal Kish is going to move through her, and it's going to talk to you a little bit about how that's legal and allowed in Star Wars Imperial Assault. So you move Corporal Kish as indicated. The highlighted spaces indicate the path that he took to move to the door, moving through Jin's space on the way. Figures can move through but not stop in spaces containing other figures. So you can always move through your own guys, and even enemies, but there's a difference there. At the very bottom of this paragraph, it even mentions what happens with enemies. If you're moving through a space with hostile figures, it costs 1 additional movement point. So you can always move through space with players anytime, as long as you don't land on that space, because obviously only 1 figure can occupy 1 space. And of course an extra point of movement for enemies. Doors are placed along edges and block movement across those edges. So straightforward, you can't just walk through a door. Tokens like this door have their own rules that are defined by the mission. You can select a token on the map at any time to read the rules that apply to that token. So I can't do that right now because I'm in the middle of the tutorial, but essentially if I was to hit that door with my finger, this would pop up. It says an ancient rusty gate leads out of the courtyard. A rebel may interact with this door to open it. This symbolizes an action, this little arrow. And that's what this whole thing is talking about, is an interact action. So if you want to spend an action, he can actually go ahead and interact with this door. Now as we know, he spent an action to move, so he's already done his movement. That's great. And at this point, his second action would be to go ahead and interact with the door. That's essentially what this whole paragraph is saying. So we'll interact with the door. Now it's going to open up an absolutely massive area. So it says Corporal Kish pushes the ancient metal gate open to reveal the lush, dense jungle beyond. Open the door, remove the token from the map, and place tiles 1, 5, 6, 9, 10, 17, tons of tiles. Note that the 2 indicates that you'll be using 2 copies of 18 on the map. All right, so basically at this point, we're really just putting down a lot of tiles. So the first thing we do is the door is open. When the door opens, essentially just goes up and disappears. Comes right off the map. So I'm going to take off this back piece here because I put that there because I thought it was a really good idea. And I'm just going to take this off, and because we're going to end up using it for where it's supposed to be. I'm going to bring the other tiles into play that we grabbed from before, and we have to really build this out. So I'm going to need some space here. So we're going to move Garkin over a little bit. We're going to bring Jan forward a little bit, and we're going to start putting these tiles out. So let's see what we got. Just bear with me 2 seconds here while I go ahead and build this thing out. So we're going to need some more space. I'm going to have to push this a little further ahead. We're going to use the larger tile, which is a little bit off camera here. This guy right here is quite big, and it sits like this. So it opens up to this area first. Corporal Kish is right there. And then of course we have an 18A tile that goes right here. And then right after that we have this particular one right here. I just want to make sure I do this correctly. Yeah, I think it sits just like this. Perfect. And next up is, I guess we could do, yeah, this works. So I could do this one here. And then it's kind of a little bit of a loop, really, is what's going on here. And I'm going to have to readjust the whole map so that we can see it all. We've got kind of a tree area. This tree area is going to be, it's going to make sure I place this one correctly. I'm going to do that one last, actually, because I might gum that up. So put that one here. And then this one there should be a way to make this work. What am I doing? Oh, I think there's a intersecting, yes, there's a piece that sits right like this. And then now we've got that, what am I doing wrong? There we go. Wow, that's embarrassing. Okay, so continuing on. There we go. So we got everything all sealed up. Everything is created. The map has been made. All right. Whew. Worked up a sweat there. Okay, so we've got this 38 tile. We don't need it, so I'm just going to toss it off to the side, and we're going to continue on through the app. All right, so we're going to hit continue and see what happens next. Several crates containing your gear await you on the other side. Oh, okay, so we got crates that have landed there for our gear. So I'm going to take 2 crate tokens, and the app even shows exactly where they go, which is just left of the red square. So it's going to be like here and here. So we got 2 crates right up front. Of course, those are going to likely have items in there for us. Corporal Kish steps through the gate and motions for you to follow him. So the other thing to remember, though, with movement is you might wonder why he's allowed to do this and he can go 1 more space. So when he was here, he activated using movement, which allows him to have up to 4. He can break up his movement, so he can go 1, 2, 3 like he did, then use the second action to open the door, and then use up that extra movement that he never used to get to this space. So that's why what he did is completely legal, and of course it's in the app, so it has to be. And it even explains it right here, what I just talked about in terms of allowing him to go 1 more movement because he had 1 left over. But at this point now, he's actually spent his 2 actions, as it mentions, spent it all, so his activation is now done. When a hero ally finishes his activation, select its portrait to inform the app the activation is complete. This is really important with the app, something that can easily be forgotten and you really don't want to. So every time an individual has done his turn, you want to click on their portrait and actually end their turn. In games with fewer than 4 heroes, 1 or more heroes will have 2 portraits stacked on top of each other. These heroes will get to perform 2 activations in a round. A hero cannot perform its second activation until each hero has taken its first. So what that's talking about is normally if you're playing with 4 players, every player would have 1 circle, 1 individual hero token essentially down the side of this. Because I'm playing with 2 players, it doubles them up, and how it works is even though you're allowed to choose who goes first, if you go ahead with Jen first and activate her, do her turn, you click on her portrait, end her turn. You'd have to then go to Garkin, use his turn, and then close off his turn, which then would cycle the 2 active ones to the top and cycle the other 2 to the bottom, and you'd go again. So what it's doing is it's allowing you extra activations when you have less heroes. So that's kind of how it balances and scales. All right, so we're going to go ahead and hit continue on. So use the app to end Corporal Kish's activation. So exactly what we talked about. We click on this right here, perfect example, end his activation. So we'll click on the check mark and it goes blue. He's done. Grab your gear from the crates and follow Corporal Kish. Have each hero perform an activation one at a time. Select a crate to learn the rules for interacting with crate tokens. The objective updated at the bottom of the message in case you have a new objective. Remember, you can always check it anytime. There's your objective. Open each crate and follow him. Easy. So of course we can come down here, we can click on this in order to see extra stuff, which we don't really need to see right now, but this is essentially the map. At this point we have freedom to kind of move it around, we can zoom in, because at this point this is what it would be like if we were actually playing the game and the app wasn't, you know, in its tutorial phase. So you'll notice we're not on the map anywhere, it doesn't track our movement, we have to do it ourselves and tell the app when we're done. So I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to activate Jen first because she's right up top, or yeah, what the heck, let's go with her. So she is a sly smuggler, by the way. And you'll notice that when you're putting her character sheet out, you always want to make sure, and I should have showed this in the last video, that the red side, like this, is on the back. You want to make sure it's white up front. Okay, so what we're going to do is take a look at her speed. She's got 5 speed. Remember, she gets 2 actions, so let's see where she can make it. So she could technically go 1, 2, 3, 4, and to be totally honest, she's already all the way over there. She could even go 1 step further. I could have her go to like here. Right? Because she can actually make that far. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. She's got that much speed, but as long as she's adjacent to the token, she's fine. She can also be on top of it in order to interact with it. Either way, she's good. Another thing you're allowed to do is click on the actual crate itself, and it'll tell you the crate contains equipment for one of your team members. A hero can interact with this to open it up, of course, and it'll even show you the areas around the particular crate that you can be in order to actually activate that crate you clicked on. So it's telling you any of these are valid positions to be to interact with it. So I'm going to use my second action now to interact with the crate. Why didn't it work? Oh, because I didn't hit continue, sorry. So you have to, this is essentially what I just explained, so I'll hit continue, and then we're going to interact with the crate. You open the crate and find a blaster pistol inside. The player for Jin, Odin searches Jin's class cards for the card called Vintage Blaster and places it face up next to her hero sheet. This is her starting weapon. In a typical mission, you'd start with this card and play off the top. For details about weapons, items, go to the rules reference. So we're going to go to her deck. So I'm going to kind of space these guys out a little bit better now that we have the map created. I'm going to move this map over a bit, push him a little further along, put his cards in front of him. Her cards are here. We're going to go through her deck, and there it is, Vintage Blaster, right on top. This is her starting weapon normally, but in the tutorial, you actually had to go to this particular spot to find it. So there we go. That's it. So you can see here, and it'll talk a little bit more about this as we go along, but if she attacks, she gets 2 green dice, and there's some other things we'll talk about as we go along. There's some flavor text there. It says, it's engraved with the words, think fast. All right, so now we'll go ahead and hit continue. After a hero interacts with a crate, the crate is removed from the map, of course. So that crate now disappears. We have to take this off the map. It's done. Remember to select your hero's portrait in the app, end activation after you perform both your actions and spent all your movement. So again, if I hadn't spent my movement point, the extra 1, I could do it now, but I already did and I'm already here, so technically I am done. So I'm going to go ahead now, I'm going to hit Jen's, and I'm going to end her activation, and now we can go ahead with Jarkin. Jarkin is going to do the exact same thing. Essentially, he's just going to go right up the middle. 1, 2, 3, 4. Now, he only has a speed of 4, so that's all his movement. His first activation is done. Now, he's going to use his first action's done. His second action is going to be to interact with this last crate, and he's hoping to find something fun inside. Crate contains equipment for one of the members, of course, we know. And you open the crate and find a Vibro Axe inside. The player for Garkin searches Garkin's class cards for the card called Vibro Axe and places it face up. Exact same thing as the last one. So we're going to flip this over. And normally, again, this is something you'd start a mission with. And we get the Vibro Axe. So this is just really giving you exactly what he's holding, even in his miniature model, along with some Morga, which means peace, apparently. Okay, or Murga. Marga. I don't even know what he's saying there. Okay, we move on through. Continuing. All right, and of course, we don't want to forget, let's take that intel token off the board. All right, having collected your gear, you head out to the combat range. Objective completed. 2 of 3. Perform activations until each hero occupies the space indicated for that hero in the app. When a hero is in its assigned spot, select its portrait on the app and inform it. So really the app's telling you get there where those portraits are. Note that these spaces contain difficult terrain, so anything that's kind of surrounded in blue. To enter these spaces, a hero must use an additional movement point. Something to keep in mind when we're doing our activations. And see, it's back to us again. Now, technically, I've used all of Jargon's activations, so this is where it comes into play, where I have to remember to end his turn because now I've actually officially done 2 full activations. It says in 2-player games, each hero gets 2 activations each round. And we already went through this. So essentially what's going to happen is it's giving us another chance to go for activations, meaning we get 2 activations in a single round. So you can see they've both enabled again, and we can go and choose whoever we want to go first. So at this point, I think Jen's already kind of ready to rock, so she's gonna go for it. So we're gonna have her run, and she's got to get herself all the way to here. So really she's aiming to be right here. So we're gonna try to get her here as fast as possible. We need 5, we get 5 movement with 1 move action. So we'll go 1, then we'll go 2, 3 into the difficult terrain, then we'll go 4, and then we'll go 5. And that's the end of her first activation. And then her second activation, we're gonna go 1, 2, and 3. And she's there, she's done. Now, yeah, I could move her. I technically have 2 more free speed to use, but the mission is telling me to be here, so that's all I need to do. And it says once I get here, just let the app know that I'm there. I hit yes. Wonderful. It now knows, it deletes her from the app, and I can end her activation, and we move on to Jarkin. So Jarkin's going to try to get just south of her. So from his location, he's got a little bit further of a trip, and he only gets 4 speed. So he's going to go 1, 2, 3, and as you can see, it gets a little bit different because he can't move into this difficult terrain because he does not have the additional point of movement he needs. He needs 1 more. So essentially, his first move is completely done. He can't use that extra point of movement. He needs 2 to get into that space. So that's done. Now if he uses another action, he gets another 4 speed to use. Now that will get him here for 2, then 3, and then 4. So he's not there completely. So at this point now, I go like this and end his activation. And you'll see it moves into round 2. Corporal Kish takes off at a jog through the jungle. Corporal Kish will activate next. He performs 2 move actions. All right, so you can see, and he's even moving for us. So he's kind of running across, he's doing everything he needs, and he's even counting out his movement along the way as well. So he's moved all the way there. So we've already seen it on the app, so I'm gonna chuck him to exactly where he's supposed to be, which I think would be right here. All right, perfect, so he's right there. Highlighted spaces show where he moved. So he's done his turn. And note that Corporal Kish spent 2 movement points entering this terrain because it was difficult. And we did notice that it bleeped twice there. Use the app to end his activation. So we'll end his activation. Normally we control him, but the app's doing it right now. Of course, we need to get, let's go ahead and activate Garkin first this time because we need to get him onto this space. So he's gonna go 1, 2, and 3. And now he's where he should be. And we'll go ahead and we'll tell the app that we're there. So we'll hit that and say, is Garkin in the space? Yes, he is. And the current hero's activation to advance the mission. Oh, okay, so again, it's telling us that we're gonna it's forcing us to in the tutorial, but normally that wouldn't be the case. So we have to force off his activation. All right, let's get you some combat training, Kish says. He moves some branches away from a small computer terminal you hadn't noticed before. Place a terminal token as indicated. So a terminal kind of has shown up right here, and it's just right there beside us. So we've gone ahead and placed that token. The Corporal flips a couple switches on the panel, but the terminal begins making a grinding sound and then goes black. Kish flicks the switch up and down several times, but the terminal shows no signs of life. Ugh, are any of you handy with a wrench, he asks. The terminal requires repairs. Fortunately, Jin is good with technology, as indicated by her 3 dice of her tech. Now, what the heck is that, and where is that? Well, it's right here in the bottom right corner of her player board. You'll see she gets a blue, green, and yellow dice right in the bottom there next to the wrench. Whereas, if we were talking about Garkin, he's only got blue and green. So he's good, not as good chance. Okay, she will now attempt to pass a tech attribute test. This is going to be our first roll of the game. So, Jan Odin tests tech. To perform the attribute test, roll the dice as listed. Enter the number of surge icons you get. So this is going very much back to Mansions of Madness in terms of collecting the successes, essentially, almost. So we got a green die here. I'll knock that over. A blue die, and we need a yellow die. We're going to go ahead and roll these out, see what we get. We're looking for surge. That was terrible. So we ended up getting 1 surge. I'm pretty sure that's not going to do it. Let's go hit confirm. You open up the terminal and quickly find the source of the problem. After a quick bypass, you close up the terminal, flip a switch, bring the machine back to life. Nice job. Oh, wow. I think the app's being nice to me there. I'm pretty sure because it's a tutorial that let me get away with that terrible job I just did. Otherwise, I think in a normal game, I would not have succeeded. Corporal flips a few switches on the terminal and a number of small spherical training remotes deploy from a container hidden behind the terminal and spread out around the immediate area, hovering a few meters off the ground. Place 6 neutral mission tokens. So these are ones that are not neutral because they have color on them, but if you flip them over, they are neutral on the opposite side. So we need 6 of these guys. We're going to go ahead and grab 6 of them. Put them in a big pile here. And, oh, that's not neutral. Let's see. There's 2 more. All right, and then we just, exactly how it's indicated in the app, we just placed them. So we got, essentially we've got 1 here, we've got 1 here, we've got 1 here, 1 next to the tree over here, 1 way up there, and then 1 over here. All right, so there we go. That's kind of the surrounding area and what it looks like. And then we can go ahead and hit continue. All right, neutral mission tokens are used to represent a variety of things from bystanders to secret passages. The rules for neutral mission tokens are defined in each mission. You can find these rules by selecting the token in the app. So you can always click on the token itself in the app and it'll give you some explanation. For this mission, these tokens represent training remotes. We'll use these remotes for target practice, Kish says. Allow me to demonstrate. He pulls out his blaster. Corporal Kish now activates. Normally an ally cannot activate twice in a round, but we're breaking the rule for the demonstration purposes. Corporal Kish wants to perform an attack. He has a range attack, which is indicated by the gun action or icon in the bottom right corner of the Rebel Trooper card. So he does have a ranged action. You can see that right there by the attack. And he's got blue and yellow as his dice. So let's go ahead and hit continue. To perform a ranged attack, figure must have line of sight to his target. Let's see which remotes Corporal Kish has lines of sight to. And this is where things get interesting, learning about lines of sight. So from where he's currently standing, long story short, as long as Corporal Kish can draw 2 lines from one corner of his space to the target he's going after, so in other words, he could choose this corner. When he's targeting this space, he'd have to be able to draw 2 lines to each corner. So essentially you could draw a line from here to here and from here to here. But the problem is it's going through other characters. And so if I go over here, you can actually see in this paragraph here, you're essentially drawing lines. You can see from these sight lines that he does not have line of sight to this remote because line of sight cannot be drawn through spaces occupied with figures. And that includes your own. Similarly, Corporal Kish can't see this remote because it goes through Jen's space, so he can't do it there either. And for these 2 remotes, he can't do it because they're passing through walls, so he can't do it there either. But on this side, he has line of sight to each of the 2 remotes. And for more examples of line of sight and their complexities, you can go to that appendix in the rules reference. So essentially, from where he's standing here, if you were to pinpoint this corner right here, he could draw a line to this corner and to that corner, so he can target this particular one. And he can even target this guy way in the back. Now, things get risky when he starts going after longer range options. He's going to perform a move action to get closer to his target, so move him as indicated. So he's going to move to get that close. So he's going to move 1, 2, and 3. I'm just going to put him right here. No, he stopped here according to the app. Apparently he's not using all of his range, or all of his movement. He raises his pistol, takes aim. He's going to now perform an attack. Note that he has line of sight. Of course he does. And he's going to roll 1 blue and yellow die to perform his attack. And you know what we're going to do right now is we are going to end it. I'm sorry, I'm a terrible person. What we're going to do is stop right here, and we're going to get right into the action of taking out these different training nodes in our attack phase and kind of understand a little bit more about the rules in the next video. Hope you guys are enjoying the playthrough so far, or this tutorial run through of the rules. I will see you in the next video. Thanks again for watching, and keep on rolling solo.